it actually comes from the times where you're experiencing the most challenge. And then you end up learning lessons from those challenges that really create something meaningful in your life. I've learned the losses is where the lessons really lie. So let's dig into those and let's love those failures and those losses because we know that they're going to actually expedite our growth long term.
Well, folks, today we're going to hear about just an incredible journey from an LPGA star, business builder extraordinaire. Marisa Massana is going to share with us her ideas on accountability, structure, goal setting, and so much more, and also throw in a few really quirky answers to some things that we want to know at the end. You're going to love it. Stay tuned. And I'm really stoked because you and the community have sort of voted, which is great. We're starting to talk about who do we bring back? When do we bring them back? Marisa, who was one of our earliest guests on the show, was like this overwhelming, get Marisa back. We want more. So lo and behold, I deliver and she is back. Marisa, welcome aboard. With no further ado, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Bryan. It's always a good conversation. So excited to dive in.
Yeah, we're leading here. We're leading here. It's going to be a great conversation. A little bit of background. So for Marisa, LPGA player, businesswoman extraordinaire, a Hall of Famer at Clemson, 4.0 student. I mean, I could go on, but I'd say all of that great stuff aside, just an awesome human. And my hope for all of you is that if you don't get a chance to see her in person, and you're going to find out ways to do that at the end, that you will take the time to listen to not only this episode, but the episode before. I think if you're making this transition from high performer to holy shit, I'm going on my own, Marisa she's walking the walk right now. And that is so cool. I've had a chance to spend time with her on this journey. So Marisa, let's start with you're going from this time of high performing athlete, you're doing your thing, you're sort of conquering the world as you go, and then decide, okay, I'm going to transition away from sport as my sole entity thing. And I'm going to start doing my own thing and start building a brand. How does that even happen? Like, what does that evolution look like? And where are you at on that journey?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, for me, I think it really started with going within and figuring out what does that next step look like? What do I really want to do? And where am I lacking in my role now as an athlete that maybe I can fill that void through the transition in a different type of role with different types of tasks that maybe would be more stimulating or more fulfilling and more aligning with where I knew I had gifts and skills that I could leverage to serve others. So, I mean, it really kind of just started with weekly reflections of writing down what I share often in my mental gym, where I'm writing down my wins from the week, my losses from the week, and what are those lessons that I'm learning from these losses in order to just get more familiar with myself and become more self aware of those strengths, those weaknesses, and those tendencies that I begin noticing week after week that come up. And then starting to plug in, okay, I was really lit up when I was talking to this type of person regarding these topics and doing these types of activities. Okay, so then let's start intentionally building those types of activities and behaviors into my schedule in order to create more opportunities of those opportunities when I am lit up by what I'm doing and how I'm serving others. And maybe the times where I don't feel like I was at my best or I'm not really surrounded by people that I feel like I'm aligned with. Okay, let's start taking those out of my schedule so that I can start building a role that's more in alignment with me at my best.
Can you come run my schedule? That's such a great point, right? Because I feel like I am such a yes person. And I say that with no badge of honor. I've intentionally for the last 2 decades really tried to pair that out. But I love what you said about that, this mental gym of writing things down, because without it, you don't get to sort of like count your reps and figure out what you need to do. That's such
Yeah.
a great analogy. So when you're doing that, what I hear, and I'm a note taker, as we all know. So I'm thinking about if I'm in the audience and I'm saying, okay, that sounds awesome, but where do I start? One thing I heard you say that the word I use is superpower, right? It's Dan
Mhm.
Sullivan calls it unique ability. You were really honing in on what makes you you and trying to do not the things that don't make you you. Journaling certainly is one part of that. What
Mhm.
other ways do you do that where you kind of get affirmed that, yeah, I'm doing like my best stuff right now and I love this?
Yeah, I think you have to test a lot of different things. Listen, it's still a journey that I'm still on to figure out what exactly it is that I can do to be that best version of myself. But I think it does come down to saying yes in the beginning stages to a lot of different things. And then again, creating that awareness as you go. And you have to go through some of those opportunities that afterwards you're like, okay, I don't want to do that again, but that's okay. You wouldn't have known if you hadn't said that yes in the beginning stages. And then you can become more selective as you go.
Oh, okay. Folks, I'm telling you, this is exactly why you have to like dig in here, pull over, get a notepad, or just check the show notes at the end. That is so good, right? Because I think,
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of this, of giving this advice, is really learning how to say no. But I love what you said there. It was actually in the beginning, say
Yeah.
yes to a lot of things. And that's entrepreneurialism 101. Go try something, have it break. Don't do
Yeah.
it again. You and I have talked about this. Don't pay dumb tax twice, right? Your dumb tax once is, I tried it. That didn't serve me
Right.
very well. But I love that because it's counterculture. And as you
Mhm,
know on the show, we really talk about experience, not opinion.
mhm.
And I know that you've been doing that. You've been working on building this brand. I love that you said the journey kind of always is continuing, which it is. Can you lay into, I don't want to skip off this topic yet. Can you lay into intentionality? I think of all the people that have either had on the show or had a chance to spend time with, you don't just say that word, like you actually live that word. And I think it can be a really daunting thing for somebody who hasn't built that muscle yet, how to be
Mhm,
intentional.
mhm,
How does it work for you? Like, how do you really hone in on that? I want to be intentional about journaling and
mhm.
where I'm saying yes and no. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, first, I think it starts with a commitment, right? So this was, gosh, years ago now, when I first was starting to make that transition of committing to making time every week to write this down. And at first, it was something that I was like, oh gosh, here I have to go and block off 30 minutes to write something down. I'm an athlete. Go. I want to do. I don't want to just write and think about the past. I want to move forward. But I think it probably took, honestly, maybe 3 months until I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really crave this time now and I enjoy this time. It's so fulfilling for me and I'm realizing how beneficial it is to where then that even became a superpower in itself for me. And so then during that time, I started thinking about, okay, wait, what was the point? What was the main question?
No, you're intentional, right? And so I look at that as being a superpower. Like, I think people that can be intentional about your work, my wife Denise is really intentional about the people and the things and even
Right.
experiences and just is mindful of that. And I'm in awe of those that can do it because I just feel, man, I'm a little kryptonite on that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I'm always
Yes.
asking, how do I build up a little more muscle on being intentional? Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. During this time over the weekend where I'm writing down what went well and what didn't go well, I'm becoming more clear of what those patterns are of my value system, right? And what do I actually value? And then based on that, I'm able to determine what are my goals? What am I working towards? And as I become more clear of what that true north is, then I can work backwards and architect the word. Then I could figure out what are those systems that I need to implement in order to get towards that North Star. And then I'm intentionally planning those activities, behaviors, tasks in my weekly plan, in my monthly plan, in my annual plan that we're really ultimately working backwards from. And then just having really good discernment and discipline of, okay, does this task, does this call, does this event align with that true north and where I'm trying to build? Or ultimately, is it just going to be a distraction? And I really shouldn't be inserting that into my schedule.
That's awesome. Having not known you as a collegiate, or even though I only knew you really at the tail end of your LPGA time, but not knowing you as a collegiate athlete, but having heard your story, spent time with you. The one thing I love there is that I don't feel like that has been outside of your, like who you are, right at
Mhm,
the core. I feel like
mhm.
you've had that, you've shared openly that it's at some points in time, it's brought you to tears at a podium, winning an award at the school, which was the highest prestige you can get. And you're like, oh, so in this sort of conundrum of I'm working backwards off my annual plan, I'm taking notes, I'm taking stock of what works and what doesn't work. I'm in this other camp, right? So I hear that and I'm like, whew, that sounds like a lot of work and could maybe even feel like it's creating some anxiety, right? Where I'm sort of measuring against this false post of
Yeah.
what success looks like. How do you steer into that and say, because
Yeah.
I'm leading you here, because I know you've worked with this of,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that can be a trap, right? If I go too far. So how do I
Yes.
use it to still be a superpower, but not get trapped up in the fact like, gosh, man, I just can never do anything good.
Yeah, no, I think the one thing that's really stood out to me when you said that was when I was doing that earlier in my career. Yes, I was great at goal setting. I was great at having that vision and working backwards. However, it wasn't really in alignment with my value system and where I really felt most called to serve and contribute and grow. And that's when the dissonance starts to happen. That could be really dangerous, where you're building towards this North Star that really is in alignment with who you are internally. And so that internal turmoil starts to grow. And when it's ignored, that can really cause a lot of the issues that we're seeing now with mental health and anxiety and depression and all of these things that are really just rooted in that internal dissonance. That if we do the work earlier rather than later, we can catch that early and saying, oh, I realize that this really isn't in alignment with where I want to go. But if we could actually become aware of that from earlier stages and start building up that mountain to get to the mountaintop that is in true alignment with where we're able and capable of serving best, man, that's powerful. And that is what I believe is the true definition of high performance when you can line up all of those ducks in a row, which just catapults your potential.
Okay, so what a perfect segue, because I know you do this work with everybody from Fortune 100 executives and their teams to other high performing athletes. And there's such a great range there. What I love that you said there, and I want to hear more about this, is when it isn't in alignment with my values, I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's like anxiety is going to grow. And
Yeah.
so when you feel that, it's a good place to come back and go, hold on a second, pressure valve's starting to squeak a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and check my value system. And I think
Yeah.
for most of us, we don't spend enough time there, right? Self
Yeah.
included. I'm 57. I would tell you, I consistently need to spend time
Yeah.
retweaking and relooking at my values to make sure that I'm in alignment there.
Mhm.
So you having been on that journey, checking those values against your goals and vice versa, where does that value setting come from? Does it come out of the journaling? Does it come from this
Yeah.
intentional work done? Like, where does someone like, if I just want to take the first step, how do I
Yeah.
dig into, I don't even know what my values are.
Yeah, it's funny because what I've noticed is that it actually comes from the times where you're experiencing the most challenge. And then you end up learning lessons from those challenges that really create something meaningful in your life. So I actually encourage people to lean into those challenges. Where were the times that you were most frustrated or you felt most fired up about something? There's usually a lesson there. And so instead of trying to avoid those difficult situations, those problems, like lean into them. That's where the gold lies. And I was even guilty of doing that myself. I would just ignore it and kind of move on. It was like, I think there was a saying, it was like, count your blessings, not your fears, count your courage, not your tears. And I think that was something that I actually grew up with this mantra that I thought was great. And listen, there's of course value in always staying positive. But again, I've really been able to unleash this next level when I go into the dirty challenges and I figure out, oh man, what happened there? And then how can I actually grow through that? Something that was so funny, I have to share. I just had a call with my coach a few days ago, and we were working through some decisions that just felt messy. And I told her, I was like, this just feels like crap. Like, what the heck? And she said to me, she's like, you know what, Marissa? The best fertilizer for growth is manure. So you got to go through the crap and then you'll grow through that. It's so true. It's the silliest comment, but it was like, oh man, that landed with me. And it just had me laughing, but
Oh,
it's so true. And if I could just speak that wisdom into other people of turning challenges into triumphs, like, amen, let's go, let's do it. I mean, it's super empowering.
all right. Let your coach know that if there's a royalty off of the shirt and bumper sticker of the best growth fertilizer is to go through crap, I'm like, I'm in, right? Because it's easy to remember, not easy to do. Nobody wants to do it. I think that's funny, but so true. Okay, so you're doing that, which is so cool. You're working with some of the, I think, just like the coolest people, the thinkers who are moving business today, who love being on a golf course. I think mostly that's a connection there, but not all, which is great. And they're getting a chance to see you off of the golf course. You go out and play with them, you build rapport, which is great. And if you're going to run an event and you want someone to be there to really be with your group of people, you have got to reach out to Marissa. I'm just telling you, everybody will thank you immensely after. And it will not just be about being on the golf course. My son Owen and I have had a chance to play with Marissa, and she kicked our ass, both of us combined. But you're so kind about helping. And then it's a time after that actually matters. So as you're doing that work with these high level executives or high performing athletes off of the golf course, what are you doing for them that's okay? I know you can't go into the full program here on the show, but where do you take that first step to like, how do you help them set some goals? How do you help them kind of align with where they want to be using what you are doing every day?
Yeah. So I really love to deliver the overarching strategies that can most typically be in a keynote or a workshop format. But then after the event, we can go in one on one and I can really go deep on integrating these systems, depending on whatever the circumstances are with the leadership team of that client. So that's super valuable over the course of, gosh, 6 weeks, 6 months, even of continuing to act as a pillar of support, accountability, where they're able to externally process these things with myself, which is something I'm a huge advocate of. The times that I was struggling most throughout my career was when I was trying to do it all myself. When I'm getting stuck, you have to have that person that is someone to externally process these challenges with together, where that's where your light bulb moments come. And so if I could be that source for other people, then it's super rewarding for me to see their breakthroughs and being able to pour into them in that capacity, even after that one day event.
That's so good. And I'm going to lead here. I'm just going to state it. I won't even ask you because I already know your answer. We know this with coaching, right? We know this with personal trainers. We know this with dietitians. Why would it be any different in business? Like when you want some
Mm.
accountability in your life, like I was a goalkeeper for a reason. I really don't like running. I don't want to get on a treadmill. You get me out in the surf, I'll do it every day, but I
Uh-huh.
need a trainer. I need someone to work with me, help me be accountable. And
Yeah.
so I think your point to that is obviously not everybody can have you as their accountability partner and coach, but find somebody who's doing that, whether it's in business, personal life, relationally, wherever it is. I think I wrote accountability down 3 times. So I
Yeah.
think that's a huge one. So your work with them then is both. It's at the event, obviously creating this sort of cementing North Star moment, but then it's the follow-up to that, I think is unsexy work, if you will, of no, we're just going to get in there and to
Yeah.
your point, try some things, break some things, fix them, make them better, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. And something that I think has been really valuable even this year that I've transitioned to is after that signature golf and growth program, I also have my range tips and talks, which is where there are more casual roundtable discussions where we have an hour on the range where we're having fun, learning how to play golf, breaking down those barriers that people are feeling a little bit uncomfortable, which is the perfect segue to then go into those roundtable discussions where then we're collectively discussing those trials and triumphs that we're all experiencing. And man, that is the way to grow true, deep relationships. This is something that I did personally with my friends, right? We're all the type of people that are working through all of these challenges. And then after we've unpacked those individually, we come over a coffee or brunch and we're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm learning. This is what you're learning. And we're feeding off of each other and giving each other ideas. And now, why aren't we doing this in the business sense? It's okay, let's gather your clients in order to really develop intimacy in those relationships and breaking down those barriers, which ultimately is where trust is formed.
Okay. So I'm totally putting you on the spot now. I'm in the audience. I'm listening to this. I'm nodding my head as I'm driving, going, okay, this is awesome. But I'm not going to have a chance to have Marissa at my event. I want to have this sort of culminating event with my team. It's going to be DIY, informal. Give me like the starting point. How do I get people together? And then the follow up, right? So I'm building out the thing here. But what's the first thing I could do that's just really informal DIY so I can put my toe in the water? Let's say I've got a group of 5 executives. I'll use my sports facility, High Velocity.
Mhm.
5 executives. We've been together for 20 years. We know we have some goals for 2025. We've got
Mhm.
some economic challenges for sure. And we
Mhm.
just haven't been reconnecting as much. What's the
Well,
first thing I can do to get my team together to just start this kind of conversation?
yeah. So I always start with the wins, right? Start with the positive of what's going well. What are we celebrating right now? And give people the opportunity to not only share their wins, but also have them call out a win of another colleague by saying, oh, wow,
Mm.
Joe really stepped up in this capacity during this meeting and acknowledging the great things that they're all doing goes a long way. So that's always the greatest point of entry of just laying that foundation of appreciation is just incredible. And then from there, after we've given some celebration towards the great things that are happening, okay, then we dive into, all right, so what didn't go well? And sometimes I am careful with the word loss because that can seem like a more negative word, right? However, again, I've learned the losses is where the lessons really lie. So let's dig into those and let's love those failures and those losses because we know that they're going to actually expedite our growth long term. And then unpack those. And
And
listen,
by the way,
we're
we're athletes and not everybody gets a ribbon, right? So I think it's quite okay to say there's sometimes we don't win and it's called a loss. So sorry,
so
I interject.
totally. But what I will say is that I think it's also important as we go into those losses of leveling the playing field and saying, listen, we're not coming across this from a place of judgment or from a place of criticism. We're just coming to objectively discuss what happened and how we can learn from it. And that way, people aren't going to be taking it personally whenever we do bring up some things that maybe weren't so great or maybe would trigger someone to get really upset about one thing or another. and just making sure that you have that foundation of understanding that we're all coming together in order to grow better from this experience, and it's not to be putting anyone down or vice versa. So yeah, so then you lean into those challenges, which then leads to the lessons of, okay, what are we going to do and how can we create a system now to hold ourselves accountable to not doing this again? And I think also if we're doing this weekly as a group, as I mentioned, that in itself is what's going to hold you accountable. Because if you realize we're talking about the same problem for 3 weeks in a row, okay, we need to make a change, right? And then that's on the group to actually hold one another accountable to making those changes collectively.
Man, and I know there's so much more depth to that. So folks, there's a dot behind that massively, but thank you. That's a great one. And my guess is maybe do this outside of the office setting. Don't go jump into a conference room for the first one. Like I've found any other setting, right? You could go out to a park if it's a nice day. You can go to a hotel banquet room if that's easy. Go out to a lunch where you get some quiet space, not distracted. But then grab some wins, talk about the losses. I'm not going to say challenges. I'm just going to call them losses. Don't make it personal. I do like that.
Yeah.
Out of the losses will come the lessons. And from there, you create the systems. And
Yeah.
then from there, having a weekly meeting, I cannot say this enough. Everybody knows in the show, I'm a huge EOS fan. We have our 90-minute weekly meetings for a reason. And that is, it's our accountability partner. It is our trainer. That system is our trainer. So Marissa, I love, regardless of what system you have or none at all, you could
Yeah.
literally start with wins, losses, lessons, and systems. And if you
Yeah.
do that every week, I guarantee you'll be better. However, not ending the show here. We got plenty more to do. I think one of the things that resonated, I spent a lot of time in our notes from people sending in stuff, which is, hey, Ben, you sound horrible too. Thank you. This is great. Accountability, accountability, accountability seems to be the thing that really resonated out of our first show, and goal setting. So
Mhm.
combining those two things together, the accountability and the goal setting, how have you done that? You're a huge partnerships person. You get tapped to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
How is that combination of accountability and goals, I'll say personally for you, helped you go from high performing athlete out on the world stage playing golf? Now you're running your own empire, right? And starting
Yeah.
that. How
Yeah.
are you weaving those into the fabric of what you do?
Yeah, so I think I would say when I was starting early in those beginning stages, again, I was getting clear on where is that true north of what I want to do, and then what are the activities that I need to be doing in order to get there. And then I was sharing that with the world. I'm putting it on LinkedIn, and there was times where maybe I hadn't done this type of project yet, but I was going to do it in a small container, get video content doing that, and then share it with the world so that they know what I'm capable of in order for them to then bring me into their businesses in order to help them facilitate that experience within their own companies. So I think there's actually one example, which is so interesting that I actually landed one of the largest partnerships that I had last year was with a Fortune 100 company. And I met the gentleman that was the executive at this company, gosh, more than 3 years ago at a pro-am when I was still competing. I didn't have a presence on LinkedIn at the time, but he added me on LinkedIn. And of course, we hit it off chatting at the reception on the golf course. Now, fast forward 3 years, which was last year, he sends me a DM on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm traveling with my leadership team to engage our top vendors, suppliers, and partners that we're going to be traveling in each region of the United States. And we would like for you to help lead those engagements to develop relationships with them. So he
Wow.
never once commented on any of the posts. He never liked any of the posts. I had no idea that he had been following me for 2 years, but he said, wow, I've seen what you built. I want you to be a part of our team and we need to execute this together. Boom. And so it's like the seeds that you planted years in advance come to fruition in ways that you would have never known if you hadn't taken
Yep.
those steps and taken action to where then it can come to fruition.
And I love what you said there because it is the planting of the seeds. And the one thing that I think anybody can tell who's been listening to the show and the previous one is you are who you are on Tuesday, on Friday, on Sunday. Your personal brand is you. There isn't Marissa on stage, the Wonder Woman doing this, and then Marissa off stage, which is don't talk to me, get away from me. I'm bristly. That's just not you. Like you've really leaned into the fact that who you
Yeah.
are is who you are, whether it's goal setter, having accountability,
Yeah.
being likable, planting seeds. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of leads into where I want to go here is you're building a personal brand. And it seems like today everybody wants to put it on LinkedIn. And if by next week I don't have a job or I don't have a client or I don't have a gajillion thumbs ups or likes, that it didn't work. And what I
Right.
heard you say is no, 2 or 3 years ago, like I planted
Yeah.
this seed, I
Yeah.
nurtured it with good content of who I
Yeah.
was, which is my personal brand.
Yeah.
And from there, the
Mhm.
fruit was starting to pour out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. And even there was another event that I did where I was traveling with another client. And of course, I'm always on LinkedIn seeing the types of accounts that align with my brand and the value system that I have and the type of people that I want to work with. And so I messaged this woman saying, "Hey, I'll be in your area. If there's any events that you're already hosting that I can contribute to, let me know. I'd love to serve." And no answer. But that's fine. We carry on. Again, I think it was a few months later, I was in her area. I reached out to her because I was hosting my own event, corresponding with my client's event while I'm in the area, saying, "Hey, I'd love to invite you to my event. It would be great to have you." No answer. Okay, I carry on. So now this is a year later. She messages me saying, "Hey, I'm in South Florida. I'm hosting this luncheon with my top clients. I would love to work together. Will you come to my luncheon? And I would love to develop our relationship." So many people would have been so embarrassed by that, right? She never even answered any of my inquiries when either I was reaching out to her to serve, inviting her, but it doesn't matter. There's no ego there. There's no, I didn't take it personally. I just know that I'm planting seeds, genuinely trying to help, and it'll come around and come to fruition. And lo
Love
and behold, I end up sitting at this luncheon, which is literally at a table of billionaires. And people are like, "How do you get into these rooms?" And it's because I was planting seeds years ago. They're in alignment with my value system. I mean, money aside, that's not even what it's about. It's about the type of character that I want to be surrounded by. And these people have a standard of excellence. They have that class, that trust of people that I want to work with to where it'll come to fruition over time. Right. And I can trust that. And I just keep moving forward and keep taking action.
I love it. I love it. The note I wrote, which is interesting because one of our other clients could not wrap their brain, like it was a really sticking point. They couldn't wrap their brain around planting seeds. They couldn't. It was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. Lo and behold, the person was, as a background, an engineer,
Mm,
very high performing athlete, like a high performing athlete, but engineer brain. I said, what if you thought about all of those things? And I'll use the items you just talked about. What if you thought about all those things as R&D, little research and development? And all because R&D, you don't make any money from. R&D
right.
is typically a spend both in time and resources. And he was like, oh my gosh, I love R&D. I would do that every day, all day. It's
Yeah.
okay. Then for you, it's not planting seeds. For you, it's R&D. You're trying to figure out where it
Right.
fits, if it
Right.
ever does. Some things just sit on a shelf. So I think
Okay.
planting seeds, R&D, whatever term works for you, it
Mhm.
is, as we've talked about on the show so often, it's a long game. There are no shortcuts. That's why we have superstars like Marissa on, because she would tell you if there's a shortcut, it exists over here. And the reality is, it looks like hard work. It is hard work. It's worth it because it creates a shit ton of
Yeah.
freedom in your life,
Yeah.
but it isn't with the snap of a finger, right? It's planting
Mhm.
seed. It's R&D, call it what you will.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to completely flip the script here. Before I let you go, we had the opportunity to reach out to our audience
Uh-huh.
and who had obviously seen your show. So we culled probably 15, 20 questions. We'd ask them, what should we talk to you about? What are the questions we should ask? And our producer and social media manager pulled a couple of them out. So I'm going to zing these at you before we wrap. So first one goes like this. What does a Marisa Massana zero productivity maximum vibe day look like? And you are speaking my language, by the way. I'm here in sunny California, surfing almost every day. I too want to know, what does a zero productivity and
It's so
maximum
funny.
vibe day look like?
Yeah. Gosh, that's funny. I will say that there probably was a time in my career where there was no off day. It was always on. It was always go until I burned down. Through learning from those lessons, I've now been able to really try my best to hold myself accountable to a mantra I actually have this year, ironically, which is rest in order to return, and realizing how important it is to have downtime in order to return more supercharged the next day. That's actually something I noticed from a Benjamin Hardy course, was like something that I knew I had to hold myself accountable to. So knowing who I am and always wanting active recovery and being supercharged by activity, what I do is I do just not have a timeline. So it's not like I have to go from this meeting to this meeting. It's more of just on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'll have a longer workout. I enjoy working out. That recharges me. When I'm during the work week, I have 8 minutes of stretching and then I go into my 45-minute workout and we're on a timeline. And I indulge myself by being able to have a little bit more time on the treadmill. Of course, as my mental gym is what I do as a form of recovery. It's very therapeutic for me because there's a lot of conflicting thoughts that you have, or challenges that I come across during the week that I just don't have the mental capacity to really unpack that in the middle of a
Mm,
workday. So I take note of that. And that way over the weekend, I have time to really think through that without a timeline and process what those challenges may be. And that's very rejuvenating and refueling for me. And then connection is huge. So I'm more often than not going to connect with either a friend. If Sean is in town, my boyfriend, we'll do what we call our quality time, where I go and find a place where I get Brussels sprouts. Everyone that knows me knows that I love Brussels sprouts. So I'm on the world tour of Brussels sprouts, which I'll indulge on. It's funny Brussels sprouts, and we get to chat over topics that, again, I really enjoy. For me, connection is everything. Whether it's with Sean or if it's with a friend, we'll go grab a coffee and it'll be a 5-hour conversation that we realize by nighttime, we're like, oh, we should probably go grab dinner now. Honestly, don't have those veg days in bed. That's not me. I take care of myself in my sleep to where I don't really feel like I need that time. For me, it's more just not having a timeline. That's very refueling to me.
I love that. And I think most of our audience can, honestly, it's one of those no shit moments where I think most everybody in the audience say, I did that as an athlete. I don't care whether you played in high school or you were playing in the NFL. Recovery was part of the plan, right? And so that was easy. Like recovery to return, you said rest to return.
Oh,
Like you could never play 7 days a week. I don't care whether you're playing golf or in the NFL, you just can't do it. So we all know we have recovery. But probably one of the top 3 questions I get from either our clients or people that ping me is, I thought I could take this ability to be
mm,
Superman or Wonder Woman from the field or course into business because I'm a hard charger. I can go. And they forget that actually rest is built in because a coach or trainer is telling you to do that. But when we're on our own, we don't. So all seriousness, I guess included here is
right.
maximum vibe day is do the things you love that allow you to be who you
Yeah.
are the best of, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. So thank you
Yeah.
for indulging me.
No,
Um,
and it's totally correlated. I'll see the weekends that I don't take time off. On Monday or Tuesday, I'm like, "Oh, damn it." It's like, I knew
yeah.
I should have done that. And it's hard for me. Listen, it's hard for me to set those boundaries in myself, but I know the result if I don't. And so I do have to rest to return.
And my guess too is that through those connections, because you said that's an important thing. I know it is for my wife Denise. Personal connections are really important. You also are building in some accountability. Because my guess is those friends that meet you for coffee, or if Sean's in the off season or in town, he's not going to let that slide. He wants that same time that you've given him, and your friends probably want the same. And even if you're like,
Yeah.
oh, man, it's going to be someone reaches out and you do have again,
Yeah.
hey, we might not have 5 hours, but let's go get an hour at coffee.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
To-
segueing into this one because I think this is great. We're coming right off the golf course. What's the best advice you ever received from your caddy? And give us a good one and one that was bad.
Oh, man.
So best advice and worst advice. And you don't have to name your caddy. So thankfully I
Right.
never looped for you, so I can't be included here.
That's
So
so
best
funny.
and worst advice.
Oh, man. We're throwing it back. Oh my gosh. So many years now. Best advice and worst advice. So I think the best advice, and really, he was incredible. My caddy is an awesome human, awesome caddy across the board. Super grateful for him and how well he supported my career. Truly, it is a lonely endeavor playing golf professionally, right? It's just you and the white golf ball. But I am someone that I've said before, I always want to be mentally stimulated. And so he is actually a financial advisor. So he was very intelligent in sharing all of these insights with me to keep me stimulated and excited on the golf course, which I really appreciated. But he was always huge about enjoying the journey, and that's
Mm.
something that early in my career, I definitely struggled with because it was like, winning is enjoyable. I don't care about fun. I don't care about joy. I just wanna win, and it took me a long time to learn to truly love the process, and honestly, I don't think I really fully understood that until after golf, and now that I do feel most aligned with what I'm doing. But that was something that I'm super grateful that he was there for as a source of support, as a source of joy, and just a reminder of trying to create that mindset as much as I could, even though it really took me until after I transitioned out to remember that. So that was awesome. Him just being there in itself is huge for me, a massive blessing. And then the worst advice, honestly, it's funny because he counts everything. He knows exactly what drive I hit, what putt I didn't hit, this and that. I have goldfish brain, so I just move on. But I don't blame him for any bad decisions. I think there was like one bad read that he gave me where he felt horrible about it. And I was like, dude, we're good. We move on. So honestly, I don't think there was any time that he like bombed or anything, but I think maybe one or two bad reads. That's all I could say.
Oh, then consider yourself blessed. I can only imagine the litany of horrible things, but on the positive note, I love that because we tell our kids that, right? Enjoy the journey. It's just a game, enjoy it. But to your point, when you're in the middle of it, it's, yeah, but we're wired to win. And maybe sometimes not until later do you figure that out.
Yeah.
As you're moving into your career, and I am so proud of the growth you've had, the impact you're having for others. You're just leaning into this true God-given gift to help others be incredible. For people that are listening, they're like, I need some of this. I need some Marissa now.
Yeah.
Where do they find you? What's going on out there? Yeah, give us a little teaser of how to connect. That'll be in the show notes, but how do they connect with you and where could somebody start?
So LinkedIn is definitely the best platform to reach out. Just find me, Marisa Massana, on LinkedIn. I also am active on Instagram, not as active as LinkedIn, but feel free to reach out there as well. And for anyone that's listening that is challenged right now and feeling stuck in some ways, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, I do offer a one-on-one challenge to triumph call where we can unpack anything that may be on your mind physically, maybe with your energy, your focus mentally, or even emotionally. And typically, I find that's rooted in challenges of communication. So if that rings a bell for anyone, definitely reach out to me and we'll schedule a time. I'm happy to help.
Oh, okay. So you've got it. We'll also have the connection points in the show notes. So if you're driving, you don't have to pull over. Marissa, thank you. Such a wealth of information. I love your raw just answers to where it's at and what's going on. It is a continuum, which is great. And I do think you embody this spirit of taking that passion that you had on the golf course and quite frankly, amplifying it to an even bigger opportunity and audience. So thank you for being on the show. Folks, if you love us, give us a thumbs up. Send this to somebody else that you think could really benefit from hearing it because there are not that many people who are walking the walk in any industry, especially sport. And Marissa's one of them. So if you've listened to this and you think, I really know someone that should get a set of ears on this, please forward it. That's how we grow. Continue to send in the notes. We love them. That's how we invite guests back like this. So, Marissa, thank you for joining us. I am
Yeah.
so thrilled to have had you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Thanks, Bryan.
All right. That's the pod. Have a great day, everybody.